Okay, now let's get on with the PIQ thing. You got the point that what is PIQ? PIQ is called as Personal Information Questionnaire. The alternative name is biodata, the other name is curriculum vitae, and many others, whatever you really want to call it. Now while going with this, you need to understand your PIQ is the basis not only of your personality, it is also going to be the basis of your evaluation and psychology. Is it clear? Excuse me? Yeah. Phone goes. That thing is natural to come as slips because that is you. So when you do anything for that matter, whenever you do anything for that matter, then okay, so it's silent. Now what I really want to say is anything which you do for that matter is after all you. Suppose I tell you to stand up and tell something. Tell me something which you have achieved, do some performance. What are you going to do? Something where you have sung well, you sing well, or you can speak well, or you have done good drama. Naturally you will do the same. So psychology is a projective technique. Now please understand what is projective technique. Let me take you back into the history of psychology for a short period. This is how you will understand the analysis better. See, what exactly happened in the World War, that earlier the educated were taken as officers and the uneducated were taken as soldiers. But when World War took place, then it was very sadly discovered that a lot of people ran away during the war. They started behaving very bizarre, they started behaving very odd. The officers, the leaders were not behaving like leaders. And this was preposterous for the armed forces to recognize. At that point of time in Europe, there was a person called Sigmund Freud who had come up with a theory that men and mind can be identified as certain patterns. And when they can be identified, certain behavioral pattern can be said about them. Is it clear? So it was decided, okay, it is like this. So when this was done, they identified, okay, this is the behavior, this is it can be done. So okay, let's go by this, use this approach to identify people. It was pretty good, but it was not enough because there were many people who were very smart to hide behind the truth, hide the truth, pretend, lie, everything. They did that. So automatically, one day there was a psychologist called Rorschach. He was sitting in his table with an ink and a pen, and suddenly the ink fell down. In the olden times, as you know, it was the blotting paper which was used, so they used the blotting paper and a pattern was created. And when the pattern was created, he kept on studying there and he realized that different people came and saw it differently. Unfortunately, a mind clicked into his mind that when the thing is similar, how is it being perceived differently by different people? And this transformed into a new test called Rorschach ink blot test. And this Rorschach started using this to identify how people see differently. Why? This was not enough. Then came Rosenwig. Rosenwig said that while person goes through certain growth of period of their time, they get blocks. Maybe arguments with parents can affect the children. Maybe bad friends can affect the children. Maybe bad teaching can affect the children. Maybe a bad traumatic incident can affect the children. And all these blots, they tend to affect personality growth. And when they infect the personality, they tend to get out in terms of projection and they tend to create behavioral patterns. There was a very beautiful case study thing. They showed a guy, a photograph where a lady was watching into a room. And that person wrote a story which was considered as a classical example. He told that this is a lady, is the mother of the child, young man. He is a tourist and he is going to different places. And now this young woman, what she is doing is, she is looking at the house, and when the boy will come back, he'll take away all the money from him, control everything and make the boy suffer unnecessarily as a commander-in-chief for him. Now, the story was very odd because, if he would have had a lovely, healthy relationship with the mother, he wouldn't have written so. But it was identified that the child was suffering from an obsessive, compulsive disorder mother, was absolutely and extremely controlling. As a result, the frustration was walking in. As a result, he wrote the story. So they understood that this person is psychologically disturbed. Now this experiment became the milestone. And this is how it is being used in your different tests. They show you pictures. They show you pictures from your day-to-day life. What are they going to show you from your day-to-day life? They are going to show you a picture where there is a family sitting. What is the purpose of showing you this? Come on, Richard, you tell me, what is the purpose of this? Exactly. The purpose of showing a family picture is to identify how's your feelings about family, how you deal with your family, how healthily your system are moving. Similarly, they will show you a picture about friends sitting. They may show you a picture about two people sitting in opposite gender. There are some people who are very quirky about that. So they behave odd. But there are some people who take it easy. They realize that opposite gender is just an individual. You don't have to be very hyper about it. So when they realize that everything is going smooth, then they realize that your psychology is smooth. But if you write something preposterous, very abnormal, very, very doubtful, not smooth psychology, we find that you have certain kind of slips where you use a lot of negative words, where you are writing unnecessarily, it is going to be worst. And that is the time they pick up that this is you. There are some people who think negative. They begin with negative and then in the end of the story they end with something positive. But why did they begin with negative? Because it's their mindset. There are some people who deal with the situations in a normal way. They understand this is this, so the person thought deeply, he thought why not this, and this is this. For example, I'll give you a picture that there is an organizing, right? Now we will talk about the psycho test, but first remember this. So I have given you an idea about the psychology test, right? What is psychology? Psychology is something, the study of mind is considered psychology. What is this mind? Mind is affected by different influences. Do you think all the qualities which you pick up in terms of your cooperativeness, responsibility or other thing, does it come from genetic order? Do you think so? None. None of them come from genetic orders. Except the looks, the personality which you pick up comes from genetic order. We have fantastic examples presently, people who are working up to become prime ministerial candidates. You can look at them. If it was so smooth a genetic, then a good lineage would have affected them completely in all dimensions. There are some people who maybe were picked up from the ground and they raised their personality. It's not about good people, bad people, but it is about strong people. How did they come into being? They came into being because they picked up. If we look at you all people, there are some people who were more attached to, say, you're living in a joint family, more attached to your uncle, elderly uncle, and more like the person rather than your father. Why? Because you lived with that person, so you picked up all the values from the person. And many of the teaching are subconsciously done. You pick it up. Your mother has a habit of entertaining everyone with good water, sweets, everything, and talking very nicely as well as being considerate. You automatically will develop this habit, provided you have good relations with your mother. Similarly, if you have got good relations with your father does certain things, you'll pick it up from him. It's all subconsciously there in you. If you have lived in a good environment, it's wonderful. You had a good education, you had a good exposure, it's going to be wonderful for you. Because subconsciously you learned a lot and you can handle more varieties. So remember, the biodata is all about that. So mind is basically affected by our experiences. There are some people who behave very bizarre. Why? Because they had some traumatic incidents. And probably if it would have been a fraction of a second of an accident, no issues. But if it would have been a traumatic long year of experiences, it's going to have a bad impact. And that will be latent, and whenever it will unfurl, it will jump up. Now for that matter, let's go back to the Roshad story. That boy practically must be fed up with his mother. And for a long period of time. That is why he wrote that story. That there's a lady who wants to dominate everything and is now going to control his son's life. Why is he writing? Was it necessary? It was a simple story. He could have written that, they arranged the room properly, made things in order. What was the need to write that? That means the person was really disturbed. Getting the point, understanding what I'm trying to tell you. So the whole game is about reading your mind. How do you come up with the extreme thing? So if you're smooth, I have a very classical example of a boy whose sister was a student to me. She's presently posted in Lucknow as a JAG officer. And she sent a cousin to me. And that cousin came and learned. I was very confident that the boy will give good result, because the boy was capable of the same. But unfortunately, the boy ended up going to an NDA exam, SSB, of course. In the SSB interview, he writes that there's a boy who wanted to go for armed forces. He went for NDA, he went for SSB, but he didn't get selected. But he didn't lose his hope, and in CDS he got selected. Now if you look at the location, look at the timing, look at the position, he's already hopeless at the time of screening. What is the screening he's given for? NDA. And he's already given up hopes that he'll get selected. He's already making alibi for the next chance. So look at the way your thought runs. If you're already given up hope, you're writing some nonsense story. Why have you done that? Who's told you that you're out? Your mind. Your sense of negativism has told you that. So therefore, if somebody is writing such slips, what will happen? He got screened out. And we were quite aghast on that point, because he was a good speaker. He had prepared himself well, but on the moment of the time, he had written a completely nonsensical story, which spoke volumes about his negative thought process. Why do you think you want to be successful? You give your best. Who's told you to think of that sort? So, I don't understand. If there is no tomorrow, then why are you here? And if there is tomorrow, then why you don't have belief in it? So hope is very essential, isn't it? So remember that if you write a hopeless story, where you create a story, now you create a story of a melodrama. That there was a boy, he couldn't do it, then he came up, and now you don't have to write a South Indian story where you catch the bullet in the hand, right? We don't want those preposterous stories. We don't want you to live in an imaginative world. We want you to write realistic stories which are actually true and which speaks about you. After all, it's not a creative test, it's a psychology test. It's about letting your mind flow, opening the gates of your heart. But that doesn't mean that if you really are at this age, if you have a lot of negativity, please cure it before you walk into any place. Because that is a problem with you. And you cannot take that along. Remove all the wrong rumors, all the myths about SSB. SSB is about you. It's about you being confident. It's about you appreciating others. It's about you learning to stay with the group. It's about you speaking up. It's about you not getting irritated. There are many people who have been pampered with their children, pampered with their guardians, and as a result the children tend to have a very short temper. Within no time they say, come on, listen to me, otherwise I'm taking out the dagger. Please don't do that. Now this is not how life is really going to run. So if you're really going to take a dagger at every point of time, I'm sorry to say you're a spoiled child. You're getting the point. So please get out of all those mental things and wash away all your wrong illusions. Live in reality, live happily, live positively, and live forever. God bless you. So let's go back to the psychology part where we have 3 tests. We have first our story writing. This is one of the very important one because it gets a lot of time. You get a lot of time to express yourself, and 3 minutes is good enough. 3 into 12, 36 minutes is good enough to allow you enough slips about your personality. And if you are complicated, you will end up doing it. Trust me, you will do it. But story writing is all about picking up your different elements of your life. We will certainly help you one-to-one, but the entire teaching is one-to-one because everybody is unique. There is no standard story that I can relate and dictate to everyone and everyone is writing the same and everyone is getting selected. There is nothing like it. No physics, chemistry, biology running here. It's psychology. We will validate your story with whom, with what? Your biodata. With the kind of personality you are holding. After all, it has to be mansa, karma, vachana. Your thoughts, your personality and your speaking, and thereafter your action. All have to be in the same line. And how are you going to align them together? Biodata. Realizing who you are. Having the right vision of your strength, your weakness, and of course where you feel little disturbed. So that you can become healthy. It's too early to get disturbed. You're just in early 20s. If you just open the vision with the help of me or any psychologist for that matter, you will realize that God has been very, very kind to have blessed you to be here. There are a number of people who already lost track of their life. They're already on the roads. They're already struggling. They're achieving nothing. So if you sit down with yourself and understand the perspective of parents, teachers, friends, you will be able to put them in the right slot rather than blaming them and thereafter destroying your mind. Blaming them is okay if that can get away with. But if you keep blaming them, your mental disturbance, your mental energy will destroy your vision for times ahead. So it's time you wash it up and have a very positive approach for life. That doesn't mean that you become you become forgiving to the extent of disaster. No. I mean being alert but being positive. Is it clear? So here we think of story writing. Now what are the stories? I told one thing very clearly. If I have the right perspective, I will behave rightly. If I have the wrong perspective, I may behave wrongly. For example, I give you an example of, suppose, one of the best, not to embarrass you, but to educate you. If we take an opposite gender, whenever it is, for a male it's a female, for a female it's a boy, right? Male for that matter. If we take the male gender with the perspective of only gender, what are we doing? We are looking at the person physically. Alright? So the mental attribute and mental definition will be all gone. So when it is all gone, then what will happen? Our behavior will become preposterously confused. Am I right? But if we define that male gender or the female gender, whichever is the opposite, in a right way, in terms of mental acumen, in terms of definition, in terms of intelligence, we will behave rightly. For example, there is a lady sitting and I see her as Mosi. Or there is a lady sitting, I see her as Bua. There is a lady sitting, I see her as aunt. There is a lady sitting, I am seeing her as a teacher. There is a lady sitting, I am seeing her as a doctor. Now the mental definition will give me direction. Yes or no? But if I will see only her physically as a lady, then what will happen? I will behave like an animal, not like a wise man. Is it clear? Understood? Yes or no? Now similarly, the males. For the girls, if they see that male and they get wary of the person or they do not read the person, here I am talking about the psychology test. I am not talking about the day-to-day realities where you observe precautions or anything for that matter, none of my business. But here we are talking. If you don't define, then what will happen? You will end up into wrong thought. And that means your thinking process is not well disciplined and very active. So here we go, that whenever you look at a story, you have to define the story. If you define the story, you can create a right person. For example, there are different vehicles running on the road. There is a truck, there is a car, there is a jeep, there is a scooter. But who is the best in managing all those different vehicles? The driver of the place. So if you create, first identify it's a motorcycle, fine. Now who is going to be rightly traveling it? A motorcycle rider. If there is a truck driver. So what I mean to say, that whenever you look at a picture, please utilize your perception rightly. There is an old saying, well begin is half done. If you begin right, you will always be right. So here we show you different pictures. Suppose there is a one picture which is called as positive action. Then there is positive situation. Now you will wonder, what is positive action? Positive action is a picture where there is a person doing something, helping someone. It seems that the person is trying to create something. Maybe he is working on developing a building, working and making as an engineer or a laborer. So that's a positive action. Now what is positive situation? Somebody receiving an award, somebody receiving something else, right? It's a positive situation. Now how do we correlate positive action? We have seen that, okay, it's a normal thing, helping someone, you've done, immediately remember, go back to your gallows of your thought process, go back to the depths, to the caves, and you will find that you help someone, you want to write that out, write it. What's wrong? But if you feel, no, you've not done it, but you have appreciated someone who's done it, write it. What's wrong? You're getting the point. Now you come down to positive situation. You get an award, you get something, and you get that, okay, this award is general. But there is somewhere where you are seeing that the award is being given to someone. The award is being given to someone where there behind that it is written fashion show. So now you will have to be a little aware that you will have to change the action. It can't be something whichever you feel like, dream about. But if you get a normal award, then you can write down when you got the award of debate competition or sports competition. Then what do you write? There was a boy, he did this, and thus he got this award. Is it clear? Now one thing, is the story writing getting a little clearer? Of course, more deliberations have to be done, but an overview will help you some directions. Now, I also said that while you're writing story, the picture which is shown to you, suppose there's a boy, suppose, let me take this, just a second. Suppose I take a right, these are two people running. Then there is a one person standing and giving an award to someone who is receiving. Right, just a figurative diagram. Just giving an eye. This would be considered positive action picture. And what is this called? Considered positive situation picture. Very similar, but to make it clear for you. In this, what will happen? We will use this where? In the middle part of the story. And where will we use this? In the end part of the story. Have you understood? So picture is being used, but differently. In this, there were two friends, they decided to do this, and they used to do daily running. Now this action comes in between, and finally as a result they improved their stamina and they won this, whatever you really want to write. Or maybe for your championship for tennis, improving the stamina, or for your championship of football, or for somebody playing kabaddi, or for somebody playing cricket. Is it clear? So this can be one. Now we come down to positive situation. Here somebody is receiving an award. Naturally there has to be built up. You're not going to write a flashback story. So you can suddenly write that so-and-so was there, so-and-so did this, and finally as a result of hard work, he was awarded. Finish. Got it, not got it. Now, in these type of stories, how you allow yourself the freedom. If you really want the psychology test to be good, not only your stories are qualitative, but how about reflecting myself? How about opening the doors of my heart to let it write something which I have done, which I have experienced? This way what will happen, not only your quality will go up, your authenticity will also walk in. And that is the time when your psychology test will make the grade. You want to talk very limited and you expect the person to predict you? Impossible. Impossible. There is a boy who's gone to meet a girl to get married, and he asks the girl, what do you like to eat? The girl says, my mother likes to eat this. Okay, then he says, what do you like to wear? The girl says, my father likes to wear this. Then he asks the girl, where you like to visit? He says, my uncle likes to visit there. Now in the end of the interview, what will the boy say? I do not know about the girl. Because the girl played around, mother, father, uncle. But here we want to know about you. So in your psychology test, if you reflect yourself rightly and properly, why not? Are you living in a dreams world? Don't you know that this is not a creative test, this is a psychology test? So you are, so you will think. Why don't you want to think on yourself? Of course, positively I believe. Be honest, that is about you. And being positive, that is about life. Is it clear? Are you listening to me very clearly? Do that. So this is positive action and positive situation part. Is it clear to all of you? Understood? Now similarly we can identify. This is only to help you with the thought and help you with your own mind monitoring. There is no formulas. This has been found out from the research which you guys give me over these 3 decades. We've been doing this job for 30 years. At least I've been doing it 30 years proper. And this academy has been running for 36 years now. So guys, wake up. Please, let's get going back. Story writing done, this portion done. Now let's go down to the second part. Sorry, first let me clear this so that you don't get confused. Now let's go down to again I'll give you a negative action picture. And I will show you a negative situation picture. How is it different from each other? Please try to understand. Just to help you think. It's elaboration to help you feel stronger. The confidence has to be with you, not with me. So I am opening it up so that you guys can train yourself. Now in negative action picture, you find 2 people fighting. This person has fallen down, this person is hit him. It's a negative action. Am I right? They should not be fighting, right? Yes or no? In negative situation picture, there is a person who is lying dead and people are standing nearby. Right? Or maybe an accident situation for that matter. So, in this case, again action means middle part of the story. Controlling it, and in negative situation they everything here, where in positive situation we ended up the picture in the last part of the story. In negative situation what we will do, we will begin it with the first part of the story, that there was a character who saw an accident, a person was lying unconscious. Until unless it's well defined as dead body, please do not presume so. Why? Positive thought, simple. Any place where there is a dilemma becoming fatalistically negative will be negative for you. So why do I write that? Got it, not got it. So what I can do here, in negative situation we can take that there was an accident. So and so, whoever you want to make as a hero comes forward, he does this, he calls the other people and make it, don't make any kind of Vishnu Avtaram stories or for that matter a single hero story. Or going back to the extreme core of these southern movies which we are seeing, one man picking up the bullet and then using the blade, the bullet gets spotted, 2 people die. Please cut that nonsense. Come to realistic grounds. Is it clear? So while you write this story, you can write normally. And there he came forward, then he helped, then others also came forward and together they solved. Finish. That's all you're supposed to write. You're supposed to react rightly. Now imagine, as an officer, if you're posted with the soldiers and you do something silly and stupid, do you know what you do wrong? You not only imperil your life, you also imperil the life of your soldiers. So you got to be keeping your mind straight during those tough times. Nobody has been selected who talks nonsense. Everyone who is cool, headed and quick enough to take right decisions which are natural, practical and from day to day basis are selected. But the amount of panorama of thoughts should be good enough, healthy, so that you don't become blockheaded. There are some people who suffer from a psychological syndrome that they want to be appreciated for every answer. This is a very, very negative approach to life. These people hesitate from speaking. These people worry too much before answering because they don't concentrate on thought, they concentrate on the end product. You should concentrate on your thought and not about the end product. Maybe that somebody would give you, no, this could have been better. You can be flexible enough to understand, yes, I am sorry, I think that could have been better. But once you start concentrating on thought, trust me, you will come across fabulous answers. But the moment you hesitate, I hope my answer doesn't go right, doesn't go wrong, you are bound to fail. So please be confident of yourself. And confidence comes from simple one thing, be logical in your answers. And if you suffer from logical disorders, please explore thought process now, in advance. And trust me that mind richness will help you for a lifetime. Your logics will always be handy for you to use. Is it clear? Understanding? So here in negative situation, we have not shown him dead and shown an accident and solved it. Now in negative action, there are 2 people fighting. One can be an administrative thought, which you have already done. Somebody or the other must have been a house captain, school captain, discipline in charge can show that yes, there was a person, so he immediately controlled, he got this, and then they sent the person back to the school and created order in the school. No problems, nothing wrong with the story. Right administrative action. There can be also another one where you are talking that there was a coach, he started teaching you how to fight, he taught the different techniques, though he fell once or twice but he never gave up, he learned the technique and he landed up. Learning, if you learned a little, in case you have done taekwondo, kung fu or something, of course, the story invites you to write that. So what's wrong? Clear? Yes or no? Negative action, negative situation, clear? Now, absolutely. So nothing and a problem. And do you know where you use this picture? Clear? Now let's go down to the other part. Then there is a 5th category of stories that is called as predefined. Let's talk about neutral stories and predefined. Neutral stories. What do you mean by neutral? That can be action also, that can be situation also. Both you can take it. In neutral action, somebody is sitting and writing something, neutral action. Or there are 2 people sitting and generally looking at each other, neutral situation. Now in that case, please go back to your memory lanes and anything which has been a very good learning experience, anything which gave you happiness, please write it. As a writer, why do you want to always go for the exams? Why you have not written any article? Or have you not prepared yourself for debate? Or have does not your biodata talk of some achievement which you did? Or for that matter, even in your games, in football, didn't you create a strategy? Didn't you plan something? Now whatever you did, this is the time to reflect your personality. This is the time to be confident to express yourself. Neutral. That can be action, that can be situation. It will be something which has to match with your biodata, because after all, your psychology is an product of your past experiences. Of course, your psychology will multiply with present experiences for future, but your past experiences already educated your mindset. You want to know that mindset. So why don't you want to expose that mindset to us? Why do you want to say that I am not supposed to see who you are and yet select you? I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. I should know who you are, and you have to be free to express who you are. Don't behave with that same game which I told you just a few minutes back, that I want to ask, my uncle does this, my papa does this. I'm not interested in papa and mama, I'm interested in you. Clear? So here we go, neutral action situation done. Understood? Now we go by predefined. Predefined, again action situation. And this, what do you mean by predefined? You will say, sir, I have not understood. Predefined means that, okay, there is a lady walking with what? With pot on the head, keeping earthen pots. Have you done that? I don't think so. So if you have not done it, you will remember of the Rajasthan or maybe of some other place where it has happened. So write a story with that creative bent of mind. Where you have, because the predefined means you have to identify. You cannot come out with some cock and bull story and write a story, take it, this is it. No. You have to have the imagination to imagine what could have happened in those things which you know generally as logical. You getting the point? You find a police officer standing here, and you know the police officer should act nicely, should act responsibly, should act intelligently. And you create a police officer and do the whole story. What are you doing? Predefined. So you're doing fine. Is it clear? Yes or no? So this is something called predefined. Predefined means suppose you are shown a plane. Then think of an Air Force pilot. Now you say, how will I project my qualities there? The qualities which will show of the officer, the quality which will show of the lady of courage, the quality which will show of how she intelligently manages her situation is yours. Clear? Yes, any doubts? You can revise all this because we're going to post it in your this thing. You can look at the YouTube channel also, and we'll help you there. Is it clear? Now, what else? There is one, two more also, one, two more kinds also. So this way your picture writing can come clearer. Just you got to do is a little bit of thoughts, and rest, of course, you can post me your stories and I'd like to help you. Okay, then we've got a kind of picture called vague. And the last category is called as blank. Now what do you mean by vague? Vague means you're not very clear, are these individuals, what are they doing? The picture is not clear. Something is blur. You call it vague, you call it blur, you call it confusing, whatever you call it, I don't care. But what exactly is that you're getting this? Now what does it happen in case of vague or blur? What do? You apply your logical mind. You apply something by observing keenly and applying it rightly. Now this is very clear, this is not clear, and here you are seeing a flag. You got a clue, use it. Yes or no? Understood? So you can use it that there were two jawans, the visibility was very less, and make a story on that. Getting the point? So in vague, don't become block. Now why is these kind of pictures given? They want to play with your mind, they want to see that in confusing state, what do? Do you panic? Don't you write? Or do you logically use your brain and find some solution? There is no perfect solution, remember that in psychology. But there is always going to be a logical solution because logical behavior of mind connects with each other. If suppose I get angry on some point and the other person realizes that it was a mistake, and then they both mutually sort it out, it is logical and they will solve it. But if I get angry on every Tom, Dick and Harry and this person hardly realizes the mistake, or I get rightly angry but the person doesn't realize the mistake, then there will be a problem, am I right? So what connects you with any other person and all the person in the world? Logic. Is it clear? Now we come down to the last one, that is blank. Blank picture is about you. The psychologist, when he gives you the blank, he says that whatever you feel like writing, write. And trust me, a sports person will love to write something on the sports where the person worked as a team and enjoyed working on it. A person working on some other kind of day-to-day activities, thinking, planning, will write a blank story of that kind. Somebody coming up with something, because somewhere we are free to express something which we uniquely like. So we can write that. But there are some people who prepare this in advance and they make a big story. Now, where I find preposterous is that all your stories were this length and suddenly your blank was double the length. That clearly points out that you have pre-prepared your blank story. So we request you that whatever you prepare, keep the length similar and keep the thoughts limited to reasonability. Don't try to tell them that you had presupposed everything and done it. This will be cheating for them. Is it clear? Any doubts related to blank or anything? Yes or no? So now this is the way you can handle all these stories. And in all the stories I expect you'll be supposed to write for 3 minutes. We expect you to have a words length somewhere between 80 to 110, 120 words, not more than that. Why? Too long clearly shows that you practiced well. Too shorts clearly shows that you can't think well. So something being in between will help you. I hope you marked it in your copy so that you remember the length and you try to write that much. In that 80 to 110 words, you are generally able to write your complete thought. Second, don't waste your time in decision making where you waste a lot of time. There are some people while writing the story, they take a lot of time. It's a beautiful village and it's nice trees, the birds chirping and the wind is flowing, and then there was a farmer, he was there. What are you doing? You're wasting. If one evidently can read from a story that you have not decided in the 15 to 20 seconds given for you to decide. If you have decided what will you do, there was a farmer, one day he was going by there, he did this, that's it. So come to the spot. Is it clear? So now we end up with the story element here. Okay, should I give you a 5 minutes break and then continue? Or maybe just a 1 minute, 2 minutes break. So we can have the second part and then we'll talk about VAT. And then we'll talk about SRTs. And then we'll talk a little about interview and rest. We'll buzz off and end up with a small idea of what G2 is all about. Is it clear?